Okay, y'all ready for this one? It's gonna be a little bit of a different one. Hello, Maddie here. I have a lot to say, and I don't even know where to start. Whether you know me or not, whether you've seen me in person, IRL or not, the last 6 months have not been great in terms of my mental health. I don't stray away from talking about my mental health. I don't stray away from and try to pretend I don't have these issues. I'm not going to put it in your face, but I take medication. I go to therapy. I have a psychiatrist I talk to regularly. All these things are, I'm not shy about sharing those facts. That is all to say, today we're talking about a book, A Constellation of Roses. It's by Miranda Asebedo. We are talking about this book. We're talking about this book because a few things. One, I am now in a place mentally where I can talk about mental health again because the last few months have been so rough. I haven't been in a place because I myself have been very deep into the darkness and I've been struggling to get out of it. So that's one part is I don't like talking about mental health. I think it's important to talk about mental health, especially if you have not just experience, but if it can be in any way helpful to anybody, I think it's a good thing to talk about. Two, I had a conversation this week with somebody about mental health who was very much more towards the beginning of their journey in terms of, okay, this is a thing I've been struggling with. I have been struggling with for a long time. It's not new. It's not going away. What are next steps and how do I approach it? With the asterisk of not the best family support. So I want to talk about this book because the main story is not about a person with mental health issues, but the background and one of the main side stories has a great deal to do with mental health. It's about a girl who has gotten in trouble so many times that she can basically go to jail or be sent far off with relatives she's never met. And she is basically like an epic pickpocket. No one ever sees her coming. She can get away with anything basically. And she meets these other women in her family who have also little gifts like that. One of them is a baker and different pies can make people feel different things. And one of them, if she touches you, she can tell you a little bit about what you're struggling with and things like that. So they're not witches or anything crazy. We're part of this other realm, but they just have these little gifts. And so she discovers this family and that she is special, but she's not alone. So that's kind of the main story, is about her discovering family and her finding a home when all of her life she's just been roaming from place to place to place and never setting down roots. But the side story I want to talk about, one of the love interests, the one that you want her to end up with. I'll attach my blog, but like my blog, I'm going to give a mini spoiler alert because I do give away some things that happen. There are things that happen, but they don't really affect the story at all. They're more just facts, Does that make sense? So what specifically I want to kind of take from this book, and then we're going to run off with it, is so the male lead that we like, his name is Jasper, and a year before the book takes place, his older brother died. The main girl, Trix, she has heard so many different, some super outlandish, some super ordinary stories about how he died. And as she's getting closer to Jasper, she eventually finds out the truth. And the truth is that he unalived himself. Because YouTube has rules about saying things. And that truth has been so deeply buried because his father straight up refuses to acknowledge that that's what happened. He is completely in denial. He's like, no, my son didn't do that. What are you talking about? Why would you even think that? So it's been so buried, and Jasper is now having similar struggles in terms of just mental health. For some of us, it is circumstantial. For some of us, it is a genetic disposition. Sometimes it's both. But in this case, it seems more of a genetic, older brother had it, younger brother has it. And his dad refuses that his brother is literally dead. His brother is dead because he didn't get the help that he needed. And his mother didn't do anything for his older brother, but she, while to their father's face, I guess, agrees with him, behind his back is acknowledging that there's an issue here. Something needs to change if she wants to keep her kids alive. And so she is helping her son get the help that he needs. She's helping him get put on medication. She is helping him find and partake in these resources. And they have Trix and Jasper have a very they have a heart-to-heart moment of, this is what actually happened, and this is why it was awful, and this is why it's still awful, and this is why nobody can move on. Well, the town moved on, but this is why no one in my family can move on, and why I'm struggling, and why my struggle is even worse than it has to be. And it takes a while for him to get to this point with her, because he's definitely the popular, happy-go-lucky, always there to help, always there with a smile guy. He's the reliable, upbeat, ever-present, just constant in this town. Everyone knows that they can go to him and his family and that they'll be that. And so it takes a very long time to break down these walls of, yeah, I'm smiling all the time, and yeah, I am happy, but there's more to it than that. And so that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the nuances of mental health, because we all know mental health is a thing. Okay, most of us know mental health is a thing. Some people refuse to acknowledge it, and that's their own prerogative. But here, we know that mental health is a thing. We know that there are a variety of diagnoses. We know there are a variety of steps to take, depending on what that is, depending on what you need, depending on where you are, etc., etc., etc. This video is for the person that can't get a diagnosis, they can't get medication, they can't get therapy, they can't confide in anybody because they don't know who to trust or where to start. It's really hard to take the first steps in saying out loud the issue. So I've said this before, but we're going to do little recaps about where I've been and all the things I've gone through and how I got there and whatever, because I think it can be really helpful. Now that I'm 7 years into it, I can go through it a little bit and kind of show you different stages of the process. I was diagnosed December of 2015. So the Christmas before I got diagnosed, I spent that holiday, well, like doing nothing, but not in the like kind of good, relaxing, fun vacation way, doing nothing in the, I would just be laying down all day. And all I would do would be is move like places. I would go from like my bed to the couch, to the fireplace, maybe to my mom's bed, back to the couch, and then like back to bed. My entire Christmas vacation that way. And one of the days I remember being on my mom's bed and just kind of being like, I'm just tired and I don't have any energy. And I'm pretty sure I looked at her and I said, Mom, I think I'm depressed. And after I said that, I do not think my mom was surprised in the least, just based on how I'd been behaving. She was like, yeah, I saw that coming. You were not doing well. And so starting that spring, I started seeing a therapist through my school. And, so I did therapy for a little bit. I had that summer, still not doing great. And then that fall, this is what I call my terrible, awful semester. I don't know how I got through that semester. Most of my memories from that semester are crying, panic attacks, being with friends and them having to comfort me and care for me, moments of appreciation when people recognized that I wasn't doing well, and so they kind of adjusted their expectations of me. My favorite examples were, I had an awesome French professor. I was getting a liberal arts degree, so I had to have 4 semesters of language. I was taking French, but I had a French professor, and I remember him looking at me, and I was crying in the middle of French class for literally no reason. But I remember him looking at me, but very purposefully not calling on me, because he saw that I was not okay. And it wasn't that I was lazy or tired or not paying attention. It was that like something was going on. She's not okay. Let's basically cut her some slack. And seeing him do that made me cry more, because of course it did. And I just remember leaving that class and recognizing how affected I was every single day, every single moment. The description I like to say is that, people are like, you have rose-colored glasses. Like, all you see is good and light and wonderful. And I like to say I had gray-colored glasses. The whole world was dreary and bland and muted because I literally couldn't process it. I could not process what I was looking at. I could not process my interactions with friends or, classmates. I was not experiencing anything. I wasn't tasting food. I wasn't really learning anything. I wasn't taking any joy in anything. Like, it was good if I just didn't start crying, because that was my go-to. I was just always crying. I was literally always crying. And I came off of that semester being like, I can't keep living like this. I can't keep living like this. I am a shell of a person. That was when I saw a psychiatrist for the first time and I got an official diagnosis. And we started out trying different medications. This is the moment that I am aware that I had all of the advantages in terms of getting the help I needed. One, I had parents who believed me and wanted to help me. Two, I went to a school with amazing resources. My first counselor was awesome. And then three, when I came to my parents and was like, okay, this is more than just you need to support me as your daughter. It's like, kind of, put your money where your mouth is. Like, we're going to go pay for this expensive psychiatrist who doesn't take insurance. And so we did. Met him. I burst into tears the second he walked in the room because I was afraid he wouldn't believe me and how bad I was. I was afraid that he was going to look at me and tell me I was over-exaggerating my issues, that I was just being like a hormonal young girl. And I burst into tears and he was like, okay, that's not normal. He didn't say that, but he was like, okay, we're going to work on this. I think that's more of what he said. He said, okay, goal, let's not cry every day. I was like, that sounds like a great goal. Oh my gosh. So I was so worried about not being believed, but from the very beginning, he believed me, because that's what they do. It's so hard to phrase because there are so many people that are very aware of mental health and are very aware of the struggles people have, even if they don't struggle with it themselves, and they know that it's real, even if they don't experience it. And then there's a lot of people that are just like, okay, you're anxious, just like stop worrying. You're like, thank you. Oh, you have the flu? Just stop being sick. That's not how it works. Someone has the flu, you say, hey, go to like an urgent care, get some Tamiflu, sleep, get lots of fluids, and we'll feel better. It's the literal exact same thing. When a person is sick, you don't look at them and say, why aren't you just better? You should just be better. Not how it works. I am literally sick and I need help. I cannot get better on my own. And so that's what I was worried about going in, was there are so many people that are like, yeah, you're struggling, but like you're fine. Like equating, common cold to flu. It's like, yeah, common cold. You can get over it by yourself. Just get a little bit of sleep, take some Dayquil and you'll be okay. But with things like the flu, it's like, no, I need outside resources. I need outside intervention to help me get over this, or it can get worse and then turn into things like scarlet fever where you can like lose a sense. And so there are moments of anxiety, depression, whatever. There are moments that you're like, yeah, I just need to get some sleep and like it'll be okay. Like I can get over it. And there are moments where you need intervention. And I was at a place where it's like, in every single moment I needed intervention. I was past a, one out of my, like once a month I have a bad day that's so bad I need help. It was like, no, literally every day is so bad that I need help. So we got me put on medication. We tried out a couple of things because I had bad reactions to some of them. The first medication made me like hyperactive, and not in like a kind of like hyper crazy, but like I could not stand still. By the time I saw him next, I literally just felt like my body was vibrating. Like I wasn't sleeping. And I went back for my first appointment with him, and he's like, you should have told me. Like we would have taken you off it like way sooner if I had known. I was like, oh, it isn't like you just power through the side effects. This is no, this is not the right medication for you. Let's try something else. So learned my lesson. So got off of that one, got onto another one, and the next semester started. The second medication didn't make me hyperactive or anything like that. I went back to normal in that sense, but it made me worse. My anxiety was a lot worse. My depression was a lot worse, to the point where I could go to class, but I wasn't learning. I wasn't doing my homework because literally the thought of opening my book to do my homework sent me into a panic attack. I wasn't even like learning anything scary or like difficult, but just the thought of opening a book, not the thought of the homework, not the thought of a quiz or a test or a project or anything. Opening the book sent me into a panic attack. So I wasn't doing my homework. I was literally getting notes from my therapist saying she is unable to do her homework. So she can't take this quiz because she can't do her homework because she can't open her book. And it was at this point, my sister, who her in-laws live in College Station, she was visiting and she saw me that weekend and took care of me and was very sweet. I don't know if this actually happened, but here's what I think happened. A mixture of between my mother just knowing how I was doing and then my sister seeing me. I would not be shocked if she went to my parents and were like, she needs way more help than she's currently getting, because the literal next weekend, my mom came to College Station and I withdrew from school. One of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. To leave school, leave my friends, leave all the progress I felt I had made, and just go home to heal. But that's what I did. It took my family saying, you're not okay, and we're gonna get you there. I know there are a lot of people that don't have that don't have a family that can afford for you to have paid for your semester, paid for my meal plan, paid for my rent. They couldn't get any of that money back. They paid for an entire semester that was unused. Well, my best friend got my meal plan and she was very appreciative. And I was like, great, I'm so glad it was used, honestly. I know that most people don't have that. Even if they have support, that is like crazy support. Because I also saw my psychiatrist like weekly, basically. I saw a therapist weekly, neither of which was cheap. They recognized the level of intervention that was necessary. And I'm grateful that I had parents and a family that was able to do that, because even the families that are supportive still aren't able to give exactly what is needed. And that's literally by no fault of their own. It's just a whole other beast. That was all to say that these diagnoses, this literal medical issue needs to be addressed. If it is a thing you are struggling with, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. You don't just need to go take a nap. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just need to go take a nap. But if you're at a point where you're crying all the time, if you're at a point where you can't function because you are having anxiety about simple tasks, you need to get help, and there's literally nothing wrong with that. What's really amazing is a lot of employers nowadays understand how important this is. So things like therapy sessions are really not horribly expensive. You can see psychiatrists. Medication is not expensive, which is so cool. Even when I wasn't on insurance, I was able to get my medication for very cheap because everybody understands that this is necessary. If we want to keep people alive, if you want to keep people alive, you got to help them. You got to help them. So this is literally all to say that even when it seems like you don't have support, you do. You have options. You are not forced to live in this darkness. And I know that can be really, really hard to see, especially when you're younger. Because even I was just 22 when I first came to my mom and said I thought I was depressed. At that point, and even now, it's like I don't need like affirmation from the world. I'm not like a people pleaser, but like I need affirmation from very specific people. Mostly being my family. It's like I need to be told I'm still doing the right thing. And I don't know if I would have had the strength to withdraw from school if my mother hadn't said it's okay. I don't know if I would have had the strength to come to her and say, I'm doing this. So I understand how difficult it is when you need that affirmation from very specific people, usually being parents, and aren't getting it because either they don't see it or they don't understand, or like they don't believe you that it's as bad as you say it is. And so I understand just how blessed I am in that. But this is for all the people that don't have that. This is for all the people that think, well, they powered through, I can power through. You know, they're fine, so I'm fine. You know, thinking about relatives, family, people that might have similar situations to yourself. But don't do that. Don't do that. for a myriad of reasons. One, like just, it's just like, it's not even like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's literally why. If we are here to live life, experience life, be alive, why would you willingly, knowingly spend your days when you're not also getting help? Because there is a huge, huge difference, at least to me, between the bad days where you are knowingly not doing everything you can to try to get better and make tomorrow better than today, and experiencing bad days and doing everything you can to make tomorrow a better day. Because a lot of times the things you're doing, like taking medication, might not help in that exact instance, but over time it gets better. Each day gets a little less bad. Life gets a little bit more tolerable. The gray gets just less and less and less until your world is no longer muted. But the thing is, you gotta get the help. And the help is hard to get when you don't have the support. That's what this whole video is supposed to be about. It's about, we all need to get help, but it's very hard to get help when you don't feel supported. And that's how Jasper felt. He knew he needed help. He knew his brother needed help, but they did not have support from the people they needed support from, i.e. their parents. And as a result, he no longer has his brother. So he recognized that basically he didn't care if he pissed off his parents. He didn't care because he wanted to still be there. And so he was going to take the necessary steps to make that happen. And so I genuinely hope that you have the support that you need to get the help that you need. But if you don't, I want you to know, whether they understand or not, they want you around. They want you to be there. They want you to participate. And so they might even get mad at you for getting help. But I'd be genuinely curious if you could almost do like a before and after of a, talking to a parent of a child that is undiagnosed. And then like 6 months after being on medication, asking them again and just asking their perception of their child and their behavior, their attitude, their moods, etc. Because, and have parents that knew their kids were on medication versus parents who didn't know their kids were on medication, and kind of see how that would go. That would be very, very interesting, because the people that might be anti-medication, anti-getting mental health diagnosis and things like that, they would see the difference. And they'd probably be like, oh, my child needs this. It's going to be super hard to defy your parents. And I know it's one of those weird things, because I'm trying to say it's not defying your parents when your parents ultimately want what's best for you. They just don't understand what's best for you because they don't understand what's going on. This is not I think it's best for me, so obviously it's the right thing. No, there's more to it than that. But if seeing a doctor, psychiatrist, therapist, whatever, if doing that is in defiance of your parents, but will highly, highly affect your quality of life, I think it's worth doing. If you need someone to take you there, if you need someone to help walk you through the process, how to use insurance for these things and whatever, I'm here. I got you. I can help you. If nothing else, like, we live in a world of almost too much information, and you can look stuff up and figure stuff out, and you can get the help that you need. I don't want to say behind your parents' back, but behind your parents' back, because they're not supportive of your depression, your anxiety, your bipolar, your, honestly, just there are so many issues out there. I just happen to have the two most basic ones. So whatever you're struggling with, know that you are worth taking a chance on to get the help you need to live a better life. Hopefully this wasn't too rambly in terms of that. I hope you appreciate my backstory, just because it was a really, 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 really dark time. It was a really dark about year and a half. I was really angry, but I hope this is helpful for understanding yourself, or maybe understanding me better, since most of my audience is my family. If you haven't heard that story before, hopefully it helps you understand me a little bit better and where I've come from. And even though I still very much have my issues, I still very much have my bad days, I have come so far. And I'm very proud of myself for that. Even when I've just come out of a really bad season and I was not doing well this summer, we are doing a lot better now. I'm proud of myself for getting the help that I need, for taking the medication that was a little scary because it was just so extreme, or it felt extreme. It wasn't actually, it just felt like it. But I'm very proud of myself, and I'm so much happier now than I was 6 months ago. Not quite 6 months, 4 months ago, when I was really struggling. But it's literally Evan and are finally talking about me actually doing chores around the house again, because the only chore I kept up during that time was laundry. And there was even a couple weeks in there where I couldn't even do laundry. We're getting back to where I could like actually, help with the dishes and getting back to cooking more and things like that. It's nice to feel like I can be human again. That is all to say that you are worthy of getting help, even if the people you care most about can't see. I want to kind of wrap up on a couple of things. One, just circling back to the book, and while I obviously only talked about it very briefly, and I talked about Jasper and not Trix, who's the main character, I do still recommend this book. It's a really, really good book. It's very interesting. It embraces and addresses the nitty-gritty of just being a teenager, of being lost, of being confused and hurt and broken and literally not knowing what to do because all you've ever done is made the wrong decisions. And so having the courage to make the right decisions. And so it's a really good book. And I very, very, very much loved it and highly recommend it. On top of that, I will have my blog linked below. I reread my blog before I did this video. And I mainly want to say, so my blog says what I just said in this video, but more summarized, but it also has a lot of resources in it. It has a handful of organizations that I really love that help with things like getting you resources and things like that for these issues. I also have a couple of recommendations for other books that address mental health, both fiction and nonfiction. The nonfiction recommendation is a very, very hard read. I say it in my blog, but I want to say the asterisk here also. It is not the sort of book for the lighthearted. It is really, really hard to read. It's very hard to get through. It is very powerful, and it can be very helpful if it gets into the right hands. So take with that what you will. So you should check that out. But I hope you know that you are, like I said, you are worthy of getting the help that you need. I don't know if that's a weird thing to hear, but it's true. You are worth going to the doctor. You are worth getting on medication. You are worth talking to a therapist. You're worthy. You are worthy of it, and you are worth it. You are worth being given the chance to live a good life, even for those who don't understand why you're not currently there. But you just need a place to start. I'm happy to help you with that. This is the kind of video that I could only do after I was in a good place, because if I tried to film this when I was not in a good place, I would have been a weeping mess. So we are doing this when we're in a better place, which is a wonderful thing to say. With all of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you have a great night, great week, great weekend, great month, great year. Hope you have all the greats, because you are truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, 再见. Bye.